Hey everybody, it's Christina. I'm a community technologist with DoSpace, and today I wanted to cover some basic things on keeping your mobile devices healthy. That doesn't just cover your cell phone, it covers tablets as well. I know that a lot of people have tablets, whether for their own personal use or they can be great for your kids to have kind of a device, a mobile device. So let's go ahead and get started. Some things to remember about your cell phone. So for a lot of people, it is their primary, if not their only tool for communication. This makes it, especially in today's day and age, just an incredibly important thing to be mindful of. I know that we can kind of start to take these things for granted as they become more integrated into our lives, but it is something that you want to make sure that you take care of, especially if it is your only tool for communication. If you don't have a computer at home, if you don't have a landline phone, your cell phone is really like your lifeline in a lot of situations, so you want to take care of it. And tablets can be used for a lot of those things as well. They don't typically have calling capabilities, but you can still use things like voice chat over Facebook Messenger, Skype, Discord, FaceTime, over an internet connection. So you just really want to make sure that you're taking your time to make sure that you're upkeeping those devices, because that's really going to make them last longer and make them more useful to you in the long run. Another thing to keep in mind is that a lot of your personal information is on those devices. Like, just take a moment and think about all of the things that you do on a daily basis on your cell phone. Sure, you probably check your social media, check the news, but are you also checking your email, your bank account, paying bills? I know that I've got some work stuff that's on my phone. I have information about a volunteer organization that I do work with. I do my shopping sometimes from my phone, and there can be any number of things that you are keeping on your phone that's really important, and even information that about your family. You've got pictures of your kids or information about your kids, your calendar. I know I live by my calendar on my phone, so it's really important to be mindful of the information that you're carrying around in your pocket and making sure that that information stays secure. And the other thing that a lot of people don't necessarily realize or think about when it comes to their mobile device is that it is a complex computing device. These days, a smartphone is just a tiny computer. It can do everything a computer can for the most part, at least as far as the way that most people use them, and they're becoming more powerful all the time. So since it is such a complex and expensive piece of equipment, you want to make sure that you are doing your part to maintain it properly. So some basic device health tips that really apply kind of across the board to everything. You should be restarting your device weekly. Whether that be like fully shut it down and then turn it back on, or a lot of the times they have just a restart option in their power options these days. But doing this once a week is really a best practice to extend the life of your device. Nothing, whether it be a computer or a cell phone or a tablet, likes to just stay on all of the time. They need a chance to fully shut down, kind of reset, just like us going to sleep at night. They don't need to be restarted every day, but at least once a week is going to help them keep running at their best capacity. You should also do your software updates regularly. This is something that is pushed out from the company that made the operating system, so the software that runs your device. They send those out pretty regularly, depending on what kind of device you have. It might be more often than not, sometimes depending on certain things, which I won't go into a lot of detail about. It can take longer for certain brands of devices to get their software updates, but you really should be watching for those to come through and doing them. I know that I have personally encountered a lot of people who did not do their software updates, and that can be actually really bad for your phone in the long run. And you should also be doing your backups regularly. There are inbuilt options for the major smartphones, and probably actually all of them at this point, to do cloud-based backups with your primary account that runs your device. And I will talk about this in a little bit more detail here in a minute. But those are really important too, because those are what's going to help you recover your information if you lose it somehow. So really quick 3 tips to really keep your device running well. One of the questions that I get a lot when I talk about software updates is, what if the update breaks my phone? This is really what keeps a lot of people from doing their software updates regularly, is they're worried that they're going to do the update and then all of a sudden their phone's just going to break. And yes, it's absolutely true that that has happened in the past, and it probably has happened even recently. Not every iteration of software is going to be perfect. It's just things slip through the cracks. Sometimes they don't get caught until they are out to all of the users. And it is unfortunate, but like I said before, in the long run, it's really better for you to do your software updates than to not. Software updates are meant to do a few different things. They help fix bugs, things that are going wrong in the software already. They help make your device more secure as iterations of software are out there in the world. Users find different insecurities, ways for people to break into your phone, gain access to your information. So once those are identified, the companies will send out a fix so that those backdoors no longer exist. Sometimes a software update will introduce a new feature to your phone, something that they've been working on the back end, and will give you even more options, even more things that you can do with your device. And a lot of the times they'll help make your device more efficient. So as technology gets better, as programming gets better, they can put processes together and do all sorts of things that will make your device run better. If you don't do your software updates, sometimes you'll notice your phone starting to get slower. It won't be compatible with newer versions of apps, because apps update at the same time as well. And there can be a small element of risk, but ultimately it is better to update your device when it asks you to do so. If you've had problems in the past with software updates and you're nervous about it, I would say maybe wait a week or two. You can always check the internet. Check on Twitter, Google, to see if other people are having issues with that update. And if a lot of people are saying, don't do this update, it broke my phone, a lot of the times that means the company is going to identify that issue and then put out another update to address that. So wait a little bit if you're nervous, and do a little bit of research, and then go ahead and update your phone, because it'll keep it running really well. The other thing that people ask a lot of questions about when it comes to their mobile devices, and especially since there's been a lot of changes with this topic in the last few years, is battery health. How do we keep our batteries healthy for our devices? And this has become really, really important now with integrated batteries that are not removable and easily user replaceable in our devices anymore. Used to be you could go to a store, you could spend like 10, 20 bucks, buy another battery when you're started not holding a charge very well, and just throw that in there and extend the life of your device. And that's not really something that you can do anymore. And I know that made a lot of people angry, but there were a lot of really good reasons why we kind of went that direction. It ultimately does make your batteries last longer. They wear out less quickly. And there's just a lot of other things. That's a whole nother topic that I could talk about for far too long. But some ways to keep your battery healthy: once again, restart your phone regularly. Avoid draining your battery all the way to zero. Lithium-ion battery, which is the battery that is in most of our mobile devices, those only have so many recharge cycles. And if you are waiting until your battery gets all the way to zero before charging it up again, your battery can be operating at 80% capacity within just 100 recharge cycles. Now, I know that that's a lot of numbers, but basically what is recommended a lot of places is that you try to keep your battery somewhere between 50 and 80%, and you can charge it back up. The other thing to note is if you do let your phone charge all the way up to 100%, smartphones are smart enough to cut off the power from the power cord. So if you leave it plugged in, it's not necessarily going to fry your battery. It's not going to harm it, but it's also okay to take it off the charger. I just know a lot of us with our smartphones these days, we do charge them overnight. So you can just rest easy knowing that if you leave it plugged in, even though it hits 100% sometime in the middle of the night, that your battery is going to be fine. You should also avoid doing high power consumption tasks while your phone is plugged in. This would be like watching a video or playing a pretty intensive mobile game. These things drain your battery really fast, which is probably why you're already trying to charge it while you're doing it, but then you're overtaxing your battery. It's taking in more power while it's also outputting a lot. So that's going to tax your battery pretty quickly, and you don't want to do that. It also can cause your phone to overheat, and just like any electronic device, you don't want to overheat it. So let your phone charge and then go back to watching your videos or playing your games. And my last point there was to keep your device from overheating, which I already covered. And then it looks like we have a question about, does fast versus slow charging matter? It actually does. So a lot of phones these days, especially you see them in like the Samsung devices, have fast charge. I know that Samsung says that they can, with their adaptive fast charge, they can get you from 0 to 50% in about 30 minutes, which is really fantastic. However, fast charging does have the potential to wear your battery out a little bit faster. Ultimately, slow charging is better for your battery overall. However, depending on a couple different things like how well you're taking care of your battery, it might not make a lot of a long-term difference. It depends also on how often you're planning on replacing your device. A lot of people stick on that 1 to 2 year upgrade cycle these days. So if you're only going to have your phone for a couple of years, then you can potentially keep using that fast charge and not see a huge dip in your battery performance as long as you're doing a lot of other things to help maintain your mobile device health. So that was a really great question. There's also some things that you can do day to day to help make your battery last a little bit longer. Dimming your screen is a good one. You know, keep it on kind of the maximum that you need to see it in the light that you're in. Having your screen on high, on bright, can really make your battery run down really quickly. There's a lot of processes, a lot of sensors and other types of things that are kind of on by default that you can turn off if you're not using them. Examples of this are like your location services, your Bluetooth, or your NFC, which if you're not aware, NFC stands for near field communication. With phones, it's a lot of time used for like the contactless pay, like your Apple Wallet or your Samsung Pay or whatever those different services are called. Those usually are kind of on by default. I know that location is something that a lot of people use for like Google Maps, or, you know, when you're on Grubhub looking for food, you can just say, use my location. Anything that asks you to use your location is using that GPS service, and it's on. And when all of these things are on, they're constantly like sending signals out, taking signals in, which uses up your battery. Wi-Fi, when it comes to an internet connection, if you're using Wi-Fi, that consumes less battery than using your like 4G or LTE data connection. So if you have an opportunity to use Wi-Fi, not only are you then not using your mobile data, which some people have a cap on, but it's also going to use less battery. And then you can also turn off or limit your background data. So what that means is the apps that you have on your phone will occasionally connect to the internet and look for updates, not necessarily updates to their software, but like Facebook. It'll get your notifications from Facebook or refresh your feed. So the next time you open it, it is the most recent posts. And that's what background data is. It's when it does those things without you being in the app actively telling it to do those things. And that can be great, but it can also use up your battery. So if you are wanting to make your battery last longer, you can turn off or limit background data. There are, you have the ability in your settings to be able to specify which apps are able to use background data and which ones aren't. So if you have apps that you know that you want to get your notifications from all the time, that want to stay refreshed all of the time, you can leave background data on those, and you can turn off the ones that you don't really care that that if they update or not when you're not looking at them. I know that I have some that only update when I actually open the app to use it because I don't use it very often. You can also turn off any extra push notifications that you have. These are obviously notifications when your app comes through and says, hey, you've got something new here, whether it be a message from the company. A lot of shopping apps will just send you like, hey, we've got this on sale, those sorts of things. This also counts for your Facebook notifications. So-and-so liked your post. And all sorts of different things. And same with the background data, you can turn off the notifications so that they don't always come through and like ring your ringtone or make your phone vibrate. And I know that this is something that just for my sanity, I have actually managed and turned off quite a few of my push notifications because there was a lot of things that I just didn't feel the need to be notified all the time. And that also is going to help your battery last a little bit longer. Now, backups. This is a big one, and this is something that I really wanted to talk about because it's going to save you in the long run. And the thing that I want everyone to take away from this, regularly backing up your data is the easiest way to prevent total data loss. We keep a lot of things on our phones. We talked about that earlier. There, you've got all your contacts, all your photos, you've got notes. I know that I'm jotting stuff down in my notes apps all the time, and there's a lot of things that are going to be hard, if not impossible, to remember if you lose them. And it is the unfortunate reality of any computing device, not just a phone, that sometimes they'll just fail, and it may be impossible to find out why in the long run, but you end up with either having to replace that device or that device has to be factory reset and you've got to start over from scratch. So Android and iPhone as kind of the two main camps when it comes to phones, both have built-in options for cloud-based backups. So they have their own servers off somewhere that save your information. And these can do full backups. So it's basically a digital copy of your device, including things down to like how you have your apps organized on your home screen. Most of the time, those will default to backing up your information once a day. A lot of the time, it'll be sometime in the middle of the night, but you can also do those backups manually. And they make all of your data and your settings retrievable as long as you have your password. And that's the other big thing. You can get all of this back really easily, but you do need to know your password. With Android, it's a Google account that you will use that backs that stuff up. A lot of people have Gmail accounts these days. They use Google Drive. The Android operating system is now owned by Google, so it's a Google account that that information is attached to. So if your phone ends up having to be factory reset, or you lose your phone and you have to get a replacement, or even just when you buy a new phone, if it's within the same family, if you go from an Android phone to an Android phone, as long as you have your Google account and your Google account password, you'll be able to retrieve your full backup onto that new device or onto your old device if it's been factory reset for some reason. With Apple or iPhones, you have your Apple ID and your iCloud. So your backups will go to your iCloud, and same thing. It's a digital copy of your device, and you are able to retrieve that copy as long as you have your Apple ID and your password. So as long as you are keeping your password safe, keeping your password updated. I know that sometimes we'll change our passwords just in a moment where we don't remember it. I've got it written down somewhere, but I can't find it. I'll just change it right now, but then you don't go update it where you've got it written down and suddenly you don't remember what you made your new password. As long as you are keeping track of what that password is, then you are able to retrieve your data and go on with your day, because it can be really stressful to lose this. Like I can't stress enough how important it is to do your backups and to know your password. It's really just going to save you a lot of heartache in the long run. Some other things to keep in mind. These are things that are a little less heavy. Take good care of your ports. On a lot of devices these days, this only means your charging port, but some devices do still have that old-fashioned 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. Both of those, you don't really think about much, but taking care of them does matter, especially if you are in a profession that has a lot of small particles that are flying around in the air. Those can start to build up in those ports, and when they get dirty, they don't make a good connection, whether it be with your headphones or your charge cord. I saw a kid who had a summer job mowing lawns, and he had grass clippings that got built up in his charge port, and his family thought that his phone was broken, and all it needed was to be cleaned, and it ended up working just fine. But a lot of stuff can build up in there, so you got to keep track kind of where you're carrying your phone with you. And if you're starting to get a weird connection and you can't put your charge cord in all of the way, or it seems loose, it seems like it's not staying plugged into where your phone is charging, there might be some stuff in there. Now, I don't recommend trying to clean those out yourself. It's pretty sensitive in there with the pins and the other things that are meant to connect the signals from your cord to your phone. So probably look into going to like some sort of phone repair center, or check with your cell phone service provider to see if they're able to help you clean that out, because it does take kind of a delicate hand, but that can be something that will help keep your phone healthy in the long run. Pocket lint is another one that ends up in there a lot and can make the connection kind of bad. The newer ones don't seem to have as many issues with starting to wear out, but I know if you have a phone that has a micro USB port still, the older ones that aren't the Type-C, those do have a tendency to wear out as well. They start to get loose, they start to lose connection. And one of the things you can do to prevent that, no matter which kind of phone cord you have, is to avoid using your phone when it's plugged in. Like we talked about that earlier as far as taking care of your battery. But when you think about if you are on your phone watching a video in landscape mode, holding it the long way in your hand is probably covering where the charge port is right now. So if you had a cord in there, you'd probably be putting pressure on it with like the side of your palm, and that also has the potential to break your port. So one of those things that you want to stay mindful of as far as keeping your device running really well in the long run. I also always recommend investing in a good case. This is something that can be really contentious, especially when you can go on Amazon and you get a really cool looking case for $9, prime shipping, it's there in 2 days. But I know for me with my phone, I mean, this is like an $800 device. It's almost a year old, so it's getting down there. But, I paid more for this phone in the long overall than I did my laptop, I'm pretty sure. So spending $30, $40 on a case that has all-around protection and is going to save it in a fall really is a good investment in my mind. So buy a good case, get a screen protector too, and that'll make your phone last probably an extra year at least. Another thing that I want to say and to remember is that security measures are put in place for your protection. This kind of goes back to the password thing a little bit, but there's some other aspects to it. it seems like an annoyance a lot of the time when companies insist on making your passwords like so complex, or you have to have a PIN code and use your fingerprint, those sorts of things. But when we're talking about security, especially for something like we talked about that has so much of your personal information on it, it's really all for your benefit. And it can be a lot to keep track of. That's absolutely true. It can be a real pain. But when these guidelines are getting put in place and these guidelines are getting set up, a lot of the time it's keeping the end user in mind, which is you. So find whatever way of managing your security, like your passwords or your PIN codes or whatever like that, works best for you. And sometimes you're going to have to jump through the hoops, as far as like if you forget your Google account password, there's or your Apple ID. I know that Apple takes security very seriously. So yes, you may have to call them on the phone and prove that you are the person that owns that Apple ID. They're ultimately just trying to make sure that nobody that's not supposed to gets access to all of your information. And my last kind of tip, I want to call it, is just like this handy little phrase: restart is a good start when it comes to troubleshooting issues with your device. This can mean a lot of different things. We've already talked a couple different times about restarting your device to keep it healthy, but this also applies to a lot of other things when it comes to your phone's not doing something it's supposed to, or it's doing something it's not supposed to. And so if you have an app that is acting funny, it's not responsive, or a certain part of it's not loading, completely close out that app. Don't just go to your home screen, completely close the app, and then relaunch it. If your Wi-Fi is acting funny, or any of your other kind of signals, like I said, like NFC, Bluetooth, location, Wi-Fi, if any of those are acting weird, turn that off. Turn off your Wi-Fi, turn off your Bluetooth, turn it back on. I know half the time when I get in my car, my Bluetooth will connect to play my music, and then it'll disconnect like 30 seconds later, and I have to turn my Bluetooth off and turn it back on, and then it'll connect and it'll be fine for the rest of my commute. Sometimes you need to go like the full gamut, we'll call it, because you're not able to make phone calls, your texts are taking a really long time to come through. Hit that airplane mode button in your settings menu. That'll turn off all outgoing signals from your phone, your internet, your data, all of that. It'll shut those down like you're going on an airplane, and then turn airplane mode back off, and all of those will reconnect fresh. So those sorts of things. So like, it's kind of that classic IT thing of turn it off and turn it back on again. But trust me, a lot of the times it will actually get you through what you're trying to get through. So restart is a good start when you're troubleshooting device issues, all the way up to just restarting the entire phone and starting over. So that is just a couple of my tips for some basic mobile device health. I know that was kind of a lot to go over, and there's a lot of really specific things that we didn't even touch. But if you have further questions while we're all social distancing, you can send us those questions at hello@dospace.org. There's a lot of great tutorials, a lot of people on the internet that if you're having an issue, they've probably already had it, and they'll have some great lists of ways that you could potentially fix that. But we are going to pass things off to Davion, and he's also got some really great things to teach you about Apple devices.
Hello, everyone. My name is Davion Grigsby. I am the full-time technologist at DoSpace. I handle a lot of the Mac and Apple operations at DoSpace. Today, I'm just going to go over a lot of the Catalina features and just a lot of the questions I run into when the space was open and patrons would come up to the desk and ask me some questions. Excuse me. So first, I'm just gonna have a bit of a list here. I'm just trying to figure out where to start. So this is the new Catalina system. So if anyone is really interested, I the biggest thing to take away from this is these three applications right here: the music, the podcast, and Apple TV. So there is no more iTunes. So with music, I'm just gonna open it up. This is kind of the overview it looks like now, what we're getting out of it. Before you browse, I do recommend people to sign up for Apple Music. If they're an Apple user, it's a good price. If you're a student, it's about $4.99, I believe, off the top of my head. It's pretty organized. It keeps up with you. You can make playlists, share with your friends through text, any type of social media platform. Same goes for the podcasting application that they have right here. Just give it a second to open up. We're gonna just start listening right away. So they have, honestly, I mean, even with the coronavirus we're dealing with, they have everything up to date. There might be Ron Burgundy if anyone's a fan of Will Ferrell. Some science stuff, and I'm sure they have stuff for kids right here. And Apple TV. What's cool about Apple TV is Apple TV connects to any streaming service. So I have it. It's not on this account. I don't have it hooked up to my Hulu, but usually it's hooked up to my Hulu, Disney Plus, Netflix. So it will pick up wherever I left off any of my devices, iPad, iPhone. It will have it. And Apple TV itself has their own shows, which are really good. I've only got into like two. So like C and the morning show are the only shows I've been able to get into. But yeah, it's really an amazing feature that they have on this new platform. And they sync anywhere, like I said, on any iOS device that you have. Another thing that I've seen a lot happen is people coming into the space trying to like update their phone. So since you really don't do that anymore through the former iTunes or Apple Music, you have to go to the actual iPhone right here, then trust. So I'm not going to actually update my phone, but I can just show you kind of how it goes. Oops, gotta type in my passcode. So it'll give like an overview of everything as it's loading. So have my phone all the way charged. Let it load for a little bit. It might take a while. Yep, so this is how you do. Let me blow up my screen. There we go. So we can check for an update, restore, and like Christina was mentioning, back up your phone. I make sure I back up my phone every time if I have to do anything that will possibly erase everything, because I have a lot of important family pictures of lost loved ones and friends that I don't want to lose, or phone calls from them. Get out of this. So we're gonna go to system preferences next. So with this, they have it a lot easier to get signed into your Apple ID, which I am not at the moment, just because this is my second account on my Mac, and I didn't want to show any personal information. But it's like right there at the top of the system preferences, and it's really easy to locate. Let's go to desktops and screensavers. A cool little feature I picked up on this is if you go to the screensaver tab, they have a button called hot corners. So with this, it allows you to possibly put like your Launchpad in the right corner, or if you locked your computer, or if you go to a certain corner of the screen, it will lock it, put it to sleep, or whatever you want it to do. I'm not going to do this because on the other screen, I had put it to lock screen, and I kept forgetting that I did that and kept locking my Mac, and I don't want to do that because I'm not sure if it'll end the call. So I'm just going to be careful and not do that this time. Another big cool feature that everyone's been wanting from Apple is the light and dark mode. So a lot of people have felt their eyes are very sensitive when it comes to like the light. If they're in the dark, the phone will be too bright or too dark. So now, depending on who you are and like what your eyesight is like, personally, I like my my kind of settings to be dark. And so it's easier on my eyes since I'm a big person on the computer or the game or my phone a lot. A lot of people prefer the light because it's easier to see. And with it, you also see the background changes. You can also set it to auto, which will just automatically do it for you depending on the time zone you're in. So let's go back. So another feature we're going to get into is screen time. So I've had a few patrons wonder like what is screen time. So screen time is basically just picking up on like how much you use your applications, or how long you're on your phone or Mac itself. So you can, or if you even wanted to monitor like a child, like what they're doing, if they're on their phone a lot or they're on an app they shouldn't be, you can monitor it like you're on this for an hour and you shouldn't have been. So here, since I've been working with a lot of Zoom applications and Google Chrome has that, and it tells you how many times, like if I picked up my phone, for example, it would show how many times I picked up my phone today. So like here, it just has like all these other features that we were just scrolling through earlier. So another big thing with it when it comes to this new system or operating system is photos. So with photos, this is kind of what it looks like. Let me get started. And so this is photos that has memories. If I had photos from like high school, they would pop up organized in year. If it recognizes any of my family members, it could show my mom's, father, grandparents, cousins, brothers, any siblings like that. If I'm working on any photos, I think, or I know Apple was really big on trying to like do photo editing. That's with the enhancement of the camera. So you can edit like your projects here in this category, which was a really big deal. Another big feature that a lot of people don't know is to update it. To update your software, you would go to App Store or the Apple in the corner. And okay, we're going to save this one for last because it does not like me at the moment. It's totally fine. So the next topic I'm going to go into is voice control, which is an amazing feature for anyone who might struggle with typing or anything like that. So just need to go to, excuse me, just need to go to, we'll go right here to accessibility and voice control. So if you enable voice control, it will let you do anything. So let me see if it'll let me interact it with it right now. Should let me in. Okay, I can't remember my password at the moment. There it is. All right, so it's loading right there on the right-hand corner of the screen. So if I want to say open Google Chrome, it should open Google Chrome if I'm saying the command right. It might not let me do any voice commands considering I'm on Zoom with everyone. So that is how you would do that, but I don't think it's going to open any commands since I am using something else that's using the microphone at the moment. So we don't have to worry about that. Another feature I'm going to mention is called Keychain Access. So with Keychain Access, this shows any and all passwords you've used to log in, Wi-Fi. So if you used to be on a friend's Wi-Fi network and they changed it, or you got a new phone or a new laptop or iPad, you could possibly go back on your Mac and track it down. It is kind of tricky trying to figure out which one is which. I just kind of taught myself over the ways to watch a lot of videos. So I know like this one all the way down here is like my personal Wi-Fi, which I'm not going to open. So you can find your password from a website or to the Wi-Fi network if you forgot it. So another, do a new window. So with Google Chrome, let me talk about the dock actually. So this right here is the dock known for Apple users. So if you wanted to mess with the dock, you would just go here in this system preferences. We can click this and you'll get the little magnification that Apple is really known for. You can shrink it so it's like not as kind of magnified as you want it. You can shrink the dock bar so it can really pop out if you want it. Another thing some people don't know, but I've got this question asked is like, these are the buttons to make the screen bigger, minimize it, and close out of it. So let me bring up an example window, new window, so we can maximize your screen, minimize it if you want to work on something else. Excuse me. let's close out of it. So to close out of it, or we can open it. So to fully close out of a program, you not only have to hit the red X, you also have to hit quit. Like Christina was mentioning, if you leave the program open, it'll continue running in the background and it will drain your battery of your computer, or it will just cause possible problems since so many windows could be open at the same time. Uh, Another application I like is Launchpad. So it used to be, oh, you still hit F4, excuse me, sorry. You hit F4 and you get like a basically shortcuts to all the applications that are in the dock and some that are not. So I have, like I know at this space we have a keyboard. I play with it a lot. I have my PS4 remote play if I ever wanted to connect my controller to my laptop and play. Microsoft, since I'm not a big fan of the pages, I use their kind of Word documents, presentation, Excel. I do like Google Earth, my security system, and other music services. So this is a little shortcut together. So you hit F4 on the keyboard, a Mac keyboard to get to that. What's another thing? So many features with this. I'm just trying to narrow it down. There's so many things. Let's go into notes. Notes is definitely fun. So with notes, the cool thing about notes is, full screen, it syncs across all devices and you can set it to only be on certain devices. So if I want to type in passwords, just make something up right here. I could even lock it, lock note. So make up a password and do that for a hint. All right, so let's see, let's close it out all the way. So only can't, so usually you're able just to open a note and preview it. So this note requires a password, which I just made, and we're in. So that is a quick little hack to save your password or hide notes you don't want anyone seeing that might have personal information. So that closed all the way, don't need to do that. Let me close the keychain. Let me think of another thing we could do. Oh, reminders. Oh, reminders is huge. So when this pops up, reminders, would you like to use your current location? It's honestly up to you because sometimes you will need to say okay so it can like help you use the app to find what you're looking for or do what you need to do. So I'm gonna hit okay in this time. So we're gonna hit continue. So today I could have this. So let's say I need to do list. Even well, we're not gonna add. Well, that's fine. We could add IV. Oops, can't type today. Let's add another little field in it. Uh-oh, that is not saving. All right. Cheese. Okay, there it is. Cheese, bread, toilet paper. Toilet paper. Left. And it would just be like that. So when I go to the store, I have a little store list. I could just hit dot and it deletes them all, dot. Then when I'm done, I can even delete it. Or you could set it to a repeating reminder and just change like the credentials within it. Like I could need something different this time. So I could need like milk or almond milk, anything of that nature. Let's go to the calendar right now. Let's see, oops. So the calendar is pretty unique. So in calendars, I have all these little normal holidays or religious holidays that are automatically within a calendar, but I could have other calendars. So I could have family members, like my mom's schedule is like this, or my work schedule is like this. I have this meeting this day, or I have to fix this by this time frame, or even with homework, since I'm still in school, this assignment could be due this day or project. It's really helpful. So I could even just take out all the US holidays and just have just a singular setting. So just birthdays, home, or work, if it gets too much to be on the calendar. And you can choose like the colors, like it's in purple. Excuse me. Let's close that one out. And let's go to contacts. So contacts, it can even be the same. It's basically not the same as a calendar, but I have it in test. You can make a new contact. You can also only have certain contacts on certain phones, depending on where it's synced to. I think 2 iPhones ago, I had like an old email account, and all my contacts would be synced to that. But I deleted that account, so therefore I lost all my phone numbers. So I could basically had to scramble and write everything down on accident before I like got a new phone. So now I have everything linked up to my Apple devices, so there's no confusion, or I won't lose anything important. Um, Messages. So one of the cool features about iMessages, you can use it on any iOS device that has a signal or cellular connection. And all you have to do is log in. All messages across the devices will be like, they will send to all the devices, but it won't appear as a phone number. It will appear as an email address associated with the iMessage. So it could be, you could be in class. I've seen a lot of students. I'm kind of guilty of this as well. I don't do it anymore, but I used to be pretty guilty of this in high school and early college days. There would be no phones in class, but you could have your computer. So I would just be texting through my computer or my tablet at the time. So I'm not going to get walked into that. Excuse me. So we're going to go back, or I'm just going to quit it just to save time. So when it comes to security on the Macs, Apple computers are very safe from what I know. And I also have a security system on my Mac just to do scans and check for viruses and removes anything that's kind of questionable from my device. Also, when you go try to change anything within security, you have to do a lock. So I can change how I want my firewall to be. My firewall is always on at all times. Privacy, you can dictate which app gets to go into certain folders or have access to certain things on the computer. So you always have to make changes. You will need the administrator's name and etc. to get logged in. Then you would hit unlock. It will unlock that. And then you can make the changes. Then make sure you always lock it back, because when you don't lock it back, you definitely leave yourself open for an attack, or you're just vulnerable to anything happening to your computer. Users and groups. When making another user on here, so for like this purpose, I made another one, so I didn't want to again show anything personal since it's school and a lot of work stuff on there. I have the admin as me. You can also turn on the guest user, but you can set it to only do certain things, like just use the internet or just type in on Microsoft Word, and you can give it the administrator rights if you wanted it to. See, Time Machine. Ooh, love Time Machine. So Time Machine is a huge save, or huge, it just makes life easier. So say if I was to get a new Mac, because there's a lot of new Macs out that I would love to get, and I'm scared about like moving everything, or I'm just gonna have to throw everything out and just, start over. So with Time Machine, it will literally put everything into like a backup disk, or you could put it onto a drive, and all you have to do is activate Time Machine, on your new iOS device or Mac, and it will transfer everything over to the new computer, which will save you a lot of time, a lot of stress, and big headache relief, so you don't have to worry about losing anything important. Let's see. Let's go to display. So I have an iPad, but I don't think you have to have a certain iPad for this to work, or you have to have like an Apple TV, which I don't have. So if I was able to click Air Display on, I would be able to have basically like my phone probably in the second corner, right here in this corner of the screen, or my tablet, and just control my computer on my tablet, or vice versa, which is kind of really cool to have. Let's see. So we can go up here in this bar. So up here in this bar, we have Siri. So you click that to use her. or him, because you can change the voices and program to whatever you do. This Spotlight search is a lifesaver. You can, whatever you need, it will go down deep into the computer to find it. It will have anything, fonts, anything. Got the clock, you can change it to analog if you're old school. Well, not so much old school, but I like to have it as the numbers. Sometimes if I'm in a rush, I can just look. Battery, you can change it so it doesn't show it, can show it. Got our Wi-Fi networks. Bluetooth, so I have my Bluetooth on because I have a lot of devices that can hook up to it. So it is kind of better for the battery for it to be off. So I'm just going to turn it off right now. Zoom, sometimes the location, which it just disappeared, it will pop in and out depending on what you're using. Finder is like, it's kind of in the Windows way, like that folder that's in the bottom of your bar has like the things you need. Like right here, I can go to AirDrop. You need Bluetooth on to do that. Whatever would be on my desktop. All the applications would be in here. Recent, if I was to download anything recently, or excuse me, same with downloads. Anything you download will go into here, or there is a way to change it so it can go to your desktop, but you have to kind of mess with the path. If you know how to do that, it will help. Tags. So with tags, I will have to go to the desktop to show you. So we're going to create a new folder, call it practice. So say it was important, you can even tag it. So like red, you can have red, meaning it's very important. I can have another one. Let's call this do space. Our colors have an orange in there. So this could be for do space. So you can like know which is important. So we can get rid of those. Actually, we're going to keep those because those could actually be useful now that I think about it. Mail. So mail, you have all these internet providers. A lot of people use Google, Yahoo, or if you do other mail account, it's going to ask you to type in like that server. Like for Cox, I know you'll have to go to Cox Webmail's website and get like the server. So your email address, your actual name, and the password. Then it might ask you for that server information. I know on my iPhone it does it, but I don't like using mail on my computer because it gets cluttered pretty quick. So I just kind of keep it off of there to keep the load down on my computer. So Safari or Google Chrome works excellent on a Mac. However, Safari does have like a little cheat with we're going to use Chrome. Personally, I like using Chrome more, but Safari will recommend passwords. So I know a lot of people use like LastChain, Key Access, applications of that nature that kind of help you create a password, remember password. Well, with Apple, if I was to sign in, it will like recommend a password. So let's sign out. If I was to do create, let's use another account, create an account for myself. Last name, username. I'm a big Batman fan, so you can kind of laugh at me for this one. So here it is. Suggest new password. So it will give you a really long password and it will remember it for you. And every time you log into any iOS device, it'll pop up when you type in your username. Would you use iCloud, Keychain Access, and it will help you remember that password. So we're going to cancel that because I'm not really going to make that account. Oops, close. Yes. So let me hit escape. Let's go to more. Oops, let's see. All right. So I think that's pretty much everything I have to cover that I can. I mean, there's so many like features with Apple, but that's kind of like the gist of everything I have. Let me blow the screen back up. Does anyone have any questions that I can answer while we're still on?
All right. Yeah, I'm not seeing any questions come in, so I think we can end this session. Christina, did you have anything else you wanted to say real quick before we're done, or are we all good? All right. I'm going to call it good. Thanks, Christina and Davion, for that. And we're going to go ahead and end our session, and we'll get this recording up probably in the next couple of days. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good one. Thanks, everybody.